Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. Be quite nice. Have a good time. You'll be very evil. And you'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentary.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And he used to say, "Hey, Greg Morgan," and he used to say, "Please call me Greg," and I wouldn't do it.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, SmackDown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cells.
And now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the power.
Listen to the podcast, subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Saturday! What's going on, everyone, and welcome to your Winged Eagle podcast for September 17th, 2022. I am so sorry, family. This is the first time you've seen me since Monday, since our Raw review. I had to miss this week's Dynamite watch-along, and I wasn't up here any of the other days to do any sort of video at all. So it took me nearly a week to get back to you guys. I apologize for that, but we got a lot of fun videos coming your way this weekend and the upcoming week, which I will tell you guys about, and we have one of the biggest, I guess, smorgasbord podcasts that I've ever had in terms of all of the little tiny news and notes of just random shit we have to get into on top of what we have to talk about in terms of what I missed in AEW, what we have coming up at Grand Slam this Wednesday. Last night's SmackDown was pretty newsworthy. We just had a press conference a couple hours ago in Vegas that officially announced Logan Paul versus Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel. A lot of thoughts about that. We got the latest on the Brawlout, Fallout from AEW, the latest on CM Punk and all those guys, some word on Ezekiel, a possible merger between Warner Brothers Discovery and NBC Universal in a couple of years. We've got more returns possibly coming in for WWE, possibly even Bray Wyatt, and very cryptic commercial break last night during SmackDown for the live audience there. WWE potentially teasing the return of the White Rabbit or maybe something Bray Wyatt related. That's kind of interesting. We'll talk about the PWI 500. We'll run through this week's ratings. Really great rating for Dynamite this week. Like I said, we'll get into last night's SmackDown results. Last night's Rampage results as well. We're going to talk about the final NXT 2.0 show and the rebrand and the return to potentially the black and gold, or now the black, white, and gold, which is really exciting for NXT fans, and it might even bring me back to the brand as well, as I've taken a year off from NXT as a loud helicopter goes overhead. I apologize for that. And in addition to that, we will be looking ahead to this week's Grand Slam big AEW Dynamite set for Wednesday, which we will be here to watch live together. And on Friday, this coming Friday, it's a 2-hour Rampage as well, so a whole slew of matchups set in AEW as they continue to roll on in the post-CM Punk and Elite era, at least temporarily in AEW, and I will continue my support and belief that Bryan Danielson is the guy that should walk out of Grand Slam on Wednesday, but we will talk about the possibility of MJF maybe cashing in that poker chip. I didn't really think the poker chip was the same thing as the Money in the Bank briefcase in terms of you can cash it in anytime you want, but that's kind of the narrative they've been pushing, so they might be setting us up for some sort of big swerve at Grand Slam. So we'll kind of talk about all of that. Should be a good, solid 2-hour podcast here today to catch up on everything we missed and talk about the wrestling news in the world. So I will say hello to the chat here in just a minute. I want to shout out the channel members and the Patreon supporters and let you guys know what's going to be happening this week. There is by the way, let me just, all right, you guys can hear me and see me. There is a link in the description for tomorrow's watch along. We are going to be watching, as I'm just fixing one of my settings here, we are going to be watching WWE Unforgiven in 1999. It was a show that I attended live. I've done a review on the show before, maybe a few years ago, but we've never watched it together. Of course, this was the site of the infamous Kennel from Hell, and I was shown on camera holding a very mature sign up in the air, which we'll also talk about tomorrow. And after the event, as we were driving to the next town, an 18-wheeler turned over in front of us on the highway, and we stopped to help. And one of the cars that pulled up was the minivan, and out jumped Chris Jericho, Edge, and Christian. We spent some time with them on the side of the road in the middle of the night on the freeway in North Kakalaki. So we'll talk all about that stuff tomorrow. That is tomorrow night's watch along. I know now that we're in football season, we will be going head to head with whatever the Sunday night game is. It might be Bears and Packers, I'm not sure, but I'll have it on the TV over here. And last season when we did the watch-alongs, I would always have the game on. We'd talk about it. So if you want to join us tomorrow night for some wrestling, some football, and just some hanging out, we'll be live 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here to watch Unforgiven 1999. So keep that in mind. Also, there will not be a Raw review this week. I'm probably going to keep the Raw reviews to a minimum during football season because not much happened last week. Audience wasn't very good, so probably not going to bother with Raw reviews unless something major happens, championship title changes, big returns. You'll see me come up here. Otherwise, we might be a little quiet for the Raw reviews just for football season. But I'm really excited for this Wednesday. Of course, we will be here watching Grand Slam together, where they will crown the new AEW champion, and a whole bunch of good matches set up for Wednesday and Friday this week in AEW. So that's kind of what's on the menu for today. Just lots of fun stuff to get into, and lots of videos coming up on the channel this week. So just keep all of that in mind. I want to cruise over to the chat and say hello to everyone who is here. Of course, as always, if you guys don't mind, please smash the thumbs up button below. Try to get those likes up. Likes really help the channel, maybe more than anything else. So if you really love me, if you really love this bald guy, the thumbs up button will make me happy. Also, if you would like to join and become a family member, would love for you to. The join button is right below this video, or you can click the link in the description below. We did our first ever members only watch along yesterday as we watched Raw Roulette from October 7th, 2002, the entire Raw episode, and that was a lot of fun, crazy stuff going down, and I completely forgot that that was the night that began the entire Katie Vick storyline. I just thought it would be a fun Raw to watch because all the matches are wacky, and there's shit on a pole, and there's bra and panties, and there's blindfolds, and all sorts of stuff going on. I thought it would be a fun show to watch. I completely forgot that Triple H comes out at the end of that show and drops a bomb that Kane is a murderer. And, of course, in the upcoming weeks, we would see Triple H climb in a casket and fuck a corpse. So, great times in WWE 20 years ago. But we had a great watch-along yesterday. It was a lot of fun. We're going to do a minimum of one per month of these for the members, maybe even more. And every couple of months or so, we're going to be doing Q&As. So, if you would like to join, please do so. Join the family. Help support the channel. It would be much appreciated. And since we're on the subject of the channel members, so I don't have to circle back to it again, why don't I just shout out all the current channel members right now. I want to thank the two newest members that came in yesterday, Mikey Too Cool and Luke McAllister. Welcome to the family. Thank you very much for being here. As always, my friend Deshaun Robinson, got to thank you as well. Tar Brehan is another kind of newish family member, joined this week. Damon Smith, Zelius Ward, William, Ian Dunn, Queasy, Bo Kavlovic, Al Ramos Pro, Zach H., Chaz Medeiros, Chris Miner, Mike Witt, Danny Allmark, Jimmy Anderson, C-Mac, Mab, Joshua Aparicio, Sam Pibun, How Wheezy, Michael, Spaz Phoenix, Ronnie, Nicole Lensing, Marcus the Entertainer, Nikita Abalakin, Divine Ricks, Zane G., Chris Barrera, Drew, Michael Kumo, John J.E. Dennett, S. Tatanani, Nick Musser, K-Dogs, Kennel, Kevin, as always, you're the best, Max Cope, Pokebra, Spectra, Zach Paulgett, Red Raven Rucker, Reese Jones, Victor Cologne, Isaac, George Morris, Stephen Taylor, Population 420, JJ Legg. Thank you for all of your support, guys, and it's really cool to see some of those icons changing now that we're getting into a couple of months of the memberships. So that is very cool as always. We also have a great crew of people that support us over on the Patreon page. I want to thank all you guys as well. Zach Palgett, Joseph Hudson, Chris Broski, Divine Ricks, Nikita Abalakin. Some of you are double supporters because you guys are just awesome. Chris Miner, Super Fluffy Toaster, Deshaun Robinson, Martin Can, Apron Bump Podcast, good guys over there. Alan Carter, Brandon Yelverton, Nick Musser again, K-Dogs Kennel again, Ryan Y, Devlin Husband, John Rediver, Claudio Clavidetcher, Daniel Rodriguez, Reese Jones, Josiah Blevins, John Riffle, Michael Kumo, Navid, and Blake Moran. That's a lot of people to get through there. I appreciate all of your support in helping us keep this channel moving and keeping this channel running. You guys are the best. Appreciate you as always. If you would like to become a member or support, of course you can, but really at the end of the day, what I want is your views, I want your likes, and I want your subscription. So one inexpensive and free way to support the channel is just subscribe. I really appreciate it, and you will like it here, I promise. Next up is I just want to knock out these super chats, and then we will dive into our wrestling news, and we're probably going to start right at the top with the Crown Jewel presser took place in Vegas just a couple of hours ago, where it was made official with Logan Paul and Roman Reigns going to be main eventing Crown Jewel, which is just nuts, and I will give all my opinions on that in just 1 minute. I want to welcome Jet the Hawk, Ichiro, Population 420, Off Leather Wings with the $5 drop early. Hey, Greg, won't be around for the stream tonight, but I wondered, have you started watching Stranger Things yet? I'd highly recommend it. No, I haven't. Just finished up Cobra Kai. Elizabeth and I need to set a new show. We've been thinking Breaking Bad, so then after that we can watch Better Call Saul, but Stranger Things is on the short list. It's like right at the top. I think we're going to start that one next. So probably this month, at the very latest October, we will get started on Stranger Things. We're also watching Wings, the old sitcom Wings, that was one of my favorites. We got some stuff that we're watching right now, but Stranger Things is on the list. We need a new show because we finished Orange is the New Black and really, of course, enjoyed Cobra Kai, knocked it out all in one day. So we need something new, and I've heard great things about Stranger Things. The only thing that concerns me is that some of the clips I've seen is it seems like there's monsters and all this shit. I kind of thought it was like some fun thing that had a lot of 80s references and stuff, but now it looks like there's monsters and demons. Not sure how I feel about that, but everybody swears by it, says it's a good show, so I think it's going to make the Morgan household, that's for sure. Luke McAllister, appreciate you being here, man. Thank you for joining the family recently as well. What's happening, Greg? Rarely able to catch the streams live due to the time difference, but sending you love tonight from Scotland. Thank you so much, dude, all the way from Scotland. I apologize for living over here in America, where it makes all of the time very jacked for you, but luckily you can watch this on demand. So if you are watching this tomorrow or later on, or when you wake up, or later in the evening, or whatever the hell time it is over there, just wanted to say thank you, and I hope you're hearing this message. So thank you so much, Luke, and glad you're here. George George Morris, of course, as well, with the $5. Hey, Greg, how are you doing, and how are the cats? WWE still worse under Triple H, and AEW no better. Have you watched any NFL? Bears versus Packers tomorrow. Watched a little bit of NFL last week. Of course, we weren't here for the watch-along. I went over to my sister's house, and we watched the Chiefs game because my brother-in-law is from Kansas City, and they're big hardcore fans, so we try to join them for some games every now and then, and that's what I did on Sunday. Tomorrow, I'll probably catch a little bit of football before we start the watch-along, but I haven't watched a ton of NFL yet, so no. But you think Triple H or WWE is still worse under Triple H? I don't agree with that. WWE is still going to be WWE at the end of the day, and they're still going to do WWE shit, but at the end of the day, I am much happier with Triple H at the helm than Vince. And AEW no better. I don't know if I got to disagree with that too. At least AEW is managing this situation as best as possible, which I think is interesting considering how the whole all-out scrum went, Scrumgate or whatever they're calling it now, brawl out. I've seen Fightful refer to it as, which is kind of funny. And despite how all that was handled, it seemed like a complete clusterfuck. Tony Khan had no grasp on his employees and no control over anything that was going on. Everything was made to look Bush League and amateur in a completely unprofessional situation unfolding, with a group of professionals in a company where something like that shouldn't be going down. This is some shit you'd expect in a high school gym for some indie show and a guy running his first show ever, not a billionaire. So how badly that all was handled, it's amazing to me that they've actually handled the fallout and the aftermath of it quite well. I think they've done everything right. They've suspended everybody that they could. Everybody's just kind of off TV right now. Even the people who were just trying to break it up, who were physically involved, were like suspended just for precautionary reasons, just to get everybody out of there, while everything settles, and then bring back, certain parties like the Daniels, and the Pat Bucks and the Nakazawas and the Cutlers and guys like that, and how they're handling it on TV with the troops and the talent rallying around each other. Moxley with that very passionate promo last week, a couple of talent meetings where they basically said, look, guys, we need to get our shit together here. We're professionals and we're better than this. And based on how they've been moving forward on TV, Dynamite got a great rating this past Wednesday. Kind of an uneventful Dynamite, but still a solid night of wrestling. And Grand Slam is set up huge next week. And like I said, I'm really hoping that Bryan Danielson walks away with that title so it puts the championship around the waist of one of the most credible and well-liked and respected people that you have currently in the wrestling business. So that's why I think he's a perfect fit for that title right now in AEW. And I think based on how they've handled, I think the all-out post-show mess fight and everything going on back there was a complete dumpster fire and could have been handled much differently. But based on how everything's been handled since then, I got to actually say they're doing. I wish the situation wouldn't even happen. One could argue that you should have never let the situation get to that point. But like I've said a million times, you can't change that now. All you can do is move forward and do the best you can with the situation. And I think they've really done well, to be honest. So I think they're rolling just fine. David Brown, good to see you as well. Doing much better. Had an epilepsy seizure on Friday morning. Doing much better. Went to football. Looking forward to tonight podcast. Well, David, I'm glad you're feeling better, man. Sorry to hear about that latest health scare for you. Good to see you, Zelius. Best intro ever. Thank you so much. Ben is in the house. So is Victor Colon, Isaac, Sam, Tatanani. We got Mab here, Devin Rice, Arthur Jones, Destiny, Atomic Cody, Ronnie here as well, little Justin Lowe, Yachiro, Victor Colon dropping in with $2. If the Warner Brothers NBC thing does happen, what does that WWE, AEW, what does that mean for them? Well, as we're going to talk about later when we basically just touch on what I believe is a non-story, negotiations for any sort of merger like this can't even happen for like a year and a half. So we're talking 2024 at the earliest when any sort of moves will be made. And if it does merge, there's so many hurdles to get over. I'm not even sure, if the government is going to allow something like that with the antitrust issues, and the FTC is probably going to step in and not allow any sort of like merger like that to happen to avoid monopolies and whatnot. So there's a shit ton of hurdles to get over before something like that is even really seriously considered. So before we even think about AEWWE Rampage or Smackamite, I think that let's just wait and see what happens with that. I'm not too concerned about that yet. And Tuan Fair in the house. Final boss Roman Reigns was born today. I did enjoy the press conference, and man, I'm really going to hate to talk good about Logan Paul later on. I really am, but it's going to hurt, but we're going to do it. And that's going to be a big match. I'm actually fine with it. A lot of people were like, oh, I don't know, Logan, his third match, getting a big title match. It's Crown Jewel. gives a shit what they do in Saudi Arabia? I said last night, put Roman Reigns in the ring with a fucking air fryer. I don't care. It's Crown Jewel. It's Saudi Arabia. At the end of the day, I really don't care what they do over there. So, because I'm kind of against the whole fucking thing to begin with, as you guys know. And I like that some talent like Kevin Owens, doesn't make the trip and whatnot. So I really don't care what they do. I've never, if that was a regular pay-per-view, if Logan Paul and Roman Reigns was headlining and main eventing WrestleMania, old Greg Morgan would have plenty to say about that. But this is Crown Jewel. I could give two shits. And I'm actually thinking that this could turn out to be a very surprising match, a very fun match, and, just more big-time experience points for Logan Paul, because show me dudes who come in and, can be at this level 3 matches in. So at least if they're going to give Logan... See, Triple H is smart. He knows this too. If he's going to give a guy who's only have his 3rd match a championship main event on a major stadium pay-per-view, do it in Saudi Arabia. So, it's much better doing it there than trying to pull this shit off at the Royal Rumble or something where you're going to have a lot more fans, I think, upset. Fans are going to find a reason to bitch about this anyway, but the fact that it's in Crown Jewel or at Crown Jewel and in Saudi Arabia makes me totally fine with it. Put Roman in the ring with anyone. I do not care. TGA Gaming in the house. Good to see you. Victor, so is the... Rogers destroying Chicago again. Don't know what that means. That game's tomorrow. How Wheezy is here. Deshaun Robinson, I'm not sure if I got you. Good to see you. Best of the Best is in the house. Remember that movie, Best of the Best? It's a good movie. Karate movie. Eric Roberts and James Earl Jones. Shell Shock, what's up? Good to see you. Jet the Hawk is here. Zane, did I get you already? Sometimes I say names twice. I apologize for that. Thomas Iridia, thank you very much for that $5. Kayfabe or no kayfabe, I would never rank CM Punk over Rollins, Rhodes, Cole, or McIntyre. I have no respect for Punk. We will talk briefly about the PWI 500. I've barely looked at the list beyond the top 10 or 15, but I do know Punk came in, 3 or something? He was pretty high up on the list, but that's also because the evaluation period was during some of CM Punk's hottest times. So I don't really think that it's wrong to put him on the list. It's just looks weird now that all this stuff has happened after the fact. But at the end of the day, PWI 500 does not matter at all. And I've always enjoyed the lists coming out. Back in the 80s and 90s, I liked reading it. I didn't care who was won or whatever, so I never cared too much. But we will discuss that in a little bit. All right, I think I got all the shout-outs, the super chats, the good stuff there. We will start rolling into the wrestling news. Again, if you guys don't mind, hit that thumbs up button before we get rolling, and this should be a pretty good one. Why don't we start out with the big news that dropped today that was kind of started yesterday, maybe even the day before. I have not yet listened to. There was so much stuff for me to catch up on here yesterday and last night while I was preparing this podcast. There's a couple of things that I didn't get to. Number one was hearing and listening to Roman Reigns on Logan Paul's podcast. And the other thing was me trying to dig into a little bit more of this Velveteen Dream EC3 stuff. Never really got around to that either. But I do know that they did make some hints on the podcast. I think Logan Paul might have even said he thinks he could beat Roman Reigns or whatnot. Then he tweeted something out about it. At which time Triple H then responded and said, hey, and consider this an open invitation to SmackDown. So as soon as all that happened, you take the podcast, they take Logan running his mouth, then you take Triple H inviting him to SmackDown. You're like, oh, put 1 in together. That makes 3. Crown Jewel, Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul. That's what we're going to get, isn't it? And then later on in the day, Dave Meltzer had said that he's got some big WWE's news about to drop, and that was that there would, in fact, be a press conference in Las Vegas today at 12:30 local time, and they would officially announce Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul for Crown Jewel. But that was all done before SmackDown aired, and then Logan came out and started the shit with the bloodline, so they kind of getting ahead of themselves a little bit here, but it was starting to be clear midweek, late week, that WWE is actually going to go with Logan Paul versus Roman Reigns at at Crown Jewel, which is absolutely crazy. And they did the press conference today. I watched it for the most part, and the bloodline was there in full force. It was really funny to watch Roman walk in with Heyman and the 2 belts, and then Jay and Jimmy with 2 belts each. Then you have Solo Sikoa coming in with his newly won North American title. I'm wondering if they wanted him to win that title just for the purposes of this press conference. I'm not sure. Part of me thinks that Carmelo Hayes might actually chase him up to the main roster, try to win it back from him, because it is weird that he won that belt on Tuesday when they just called him up to be a part of the bloodline. So maybe they wanted the photo opportunity so they can have the whole bloodline there with championship belts except for Sami Zayn. So to watch Sami Zayn follow in behind these guys after this trail, this long trail, yellow brick road of gold. And Sammy comes in and his t-shirt looks like he just woke up, holding his little finger in the air. I love it. I don't know what, is Triple H blind or something? Dude, how have you not thought about putting the 24/7 title on Sami Zayn? What is the matter with you? Like, how come Sami Zayn is not the champion? I know Dana Brooke is the champion. Have him beat her. That would make it even better if he caught Dana Brooke backstage in just a little soft roll up. Nothing, you don't have to punch her or anything, but just kind of roll her up in a little schoolboy or schoolgirl and pin Dana Brooke, win the title. And I think that would even be better if he beat like a man in the ring for the title. If he just rolls up Dana in the dressing room next to her makeup and her, her accessories, and then he walks out, strutting his stuff with the bloodline like he's some big champion, that would be comedy gold. So I don't know what they're waiting for there, but if Sami Zayn does not win that 24/7 title soon, I'm going to be pissed. And they need to get on that. So Sammy out there with no gold, with his hair all messed up, and his t-shirt was fucking great. Logan Paul, to his credit, comes out all by himself. No entourage for him, even though he probably has one and can probably afford one. And, he comes out all by himself. Triple H then makes his appearance. Or actually, I think Triple H comes out after Logan. Yeah, it was Roman first, then Logan, and then Triple H. And Triple H even says, he speaks first and says how much Logan Paul impressed him. And that does make me worried. This does make me think that this is all a Triple H call to put Logan in the ring with Roman Reigns, because Triple H was impressed by Logan's performance in his previous 2 matches. And of course, the dude can talk his ass off. We all know that. He puts people in the building. He's got a lot of name recognition. He's all over, media. His brother, of course, Jake Paul, is fighting Anderson Silva the week before Crown Jewel. So it's Jake in the ring with one champion and then Logan in the ring with another, and back-to-back weeks. The Paul brothers, I don't really know or like or care about either one of them. Never really understood what either one of them were famous for. All I knew about Logan is what I heard about him when he went to Japan and that Suicide Forest and all that type of stuff, and it just really turned me off. I'm like, what a little fucking prick. But everybody makes mistakes. From what I can tell, Logan Paul, like him or not, he is somebody that is kind of tailor-made for WWE and wrestling, to be honest. And his matches have been really good. He's in great shape. He looks the part. He talks the part, and in the ring, he's not terrible. If this would have been the mid-'90s and WWE grabbing any celebrity they could and stick him in the ring, a lot of times they weren't so good. They would just be happy to get the star power, happy to get the name recognition. This is a guy that not only has the star power and the name recognition, but can perform legitimately to where he's not a fucking joke. And that's a big deal. I mean, don't forget, Roman Reigns is obviously having no problem working with this guy. And I would like to see, part of me thinks that Roman Reigns, since technically he is getting in there with somebody who's having his 3rd match, that this should be an absolute squash. He should absolutely murder Logan Paul. But we've also seen what Logan Paul can do athletically. So I want to find a way to get the best of both worlds here. I want a fun and exciting match where maybe Logan Paul surprises Roman Reigns, gives him a little bit harder of a fight than Roman was expecting. But in the end, it's still a very emphatic win. Hard spear, Superman punches, whatever you need to do, put him down hard to where when you cover him and hook that leg, there is no doubt that referee's hand's coming down all 3 times. So I'd like to see a good finish like that where Roman puts him down and puts him down hard, but kind of like, Undertaker when he faced Heidenreich and a couple of these other guys he would face, he would beat Luther Reigns, I think was another guy. He would beat him, but then after he was done, he would look at him, look down at him like, damn, that guy gave me a good fight. Like maybe Roman can do something like that. Like he'll put down Logan, but when it's done, he'll look down at him and just shake his head. Man, he got more guts than brains. Take me to that limit, making me do that to you. You got to respect that type of effort, type of thing. So I think maybe this is something that in the long run, Triple H is probably thinking long-term here, more on a macro scale, that Logan, this match and this performance could really help him and help define what he does later. That way, if WWE does put him in larger match situations, at least the fans are like, well, every time he's been in those situations, he's done well. They put him in the ring with Roman in the main event of Crown Jewel, tore the house down. So if he's trustworthy and you can put him in the ring and he always performs, why aren't you going to give this guy opportunities? WWE is a mix of wrestling and entertainment. We all know that. And Logan Paul is the very epitome of entertainment. He's an entertainer. That's what he does. And he just happens to be very, very naturally gifted in this world of professional wrestling. And you combine those 2 things together, You could have a superstar on your hands. He's going to have to work on a few things. He's an extremely unlikable person, but they're working on that. I think Logan can, or at least with somebody like me, I don't get too hung up on hate for any one specific person ever. So even though I think Logan is and probably was a fucking idiot, he's also grown and matured, and you have to be a professional to even compete on this level and to work so hard to get that good. So it's not like he's some lazy stoner piece of shit that's going to walk his way through this. He is doing everything he needs to do. So from that aspect, he's putting the work in. He's not treating it like a joke. That's always been another problem I've had when WWE has incorporated celebrities into their product, is the celebrities don't know the product. They don't know what the hell they're doing. You get Jeremy Piven out there, promoting Summerfest and whatnot. It's stuff like that I've always hated because they don't know or like or appreciate the business. Steve-O and Party Boy famously got their asses kicked by Umaga, and they're just laughing their asses off the whole time. So you want to see somebody come in that knows wrestling, that understands wrestling, that knows how to operate in wrestling, and respects the history, the traditions, and the unwritten rules of professional wrestling. And Logan Paul, from what I can see so far, does that. I don't think Triple H would throw him, in a match this big if he didn't. It's not like WWE's hard up for celebrities. Celebrities basically come to them. They don't have to really work too hard to get any sort of Hollywood or big-time, mainstream media star involved. They're involved all the time. So I don't think that, Logan is somebody that is a complete joke. I think he really has a big chance to be something major in wrestling, and it's going to be interesting to see, since he has so many other outside interests, and he's got podcasts, and he's got branding, and he's already a multi-millionaire, clearly doesn't need to be wrestling for the money. It'll be interesting to see how far he takes his WWE career. Is he going to make this a 15-year, 20-year deal, and he's going to be in the ring a lot, competing full-time, winning championships? It's going to be hard for somebody to do that who has all those outside interests. He reminds me a lot of a Pat McAfee or whatnot. So I think at best we might get Logan Paul on a part-time basis, but I think he needs to go through some point of his wrestling career where he's wrestling hard and a lot. Maybe just do one good hard year, like a Ronda Rousey year or something like that, where you're on TV most weeks, not all, in the ring sometimes, wrestling on Raw, wrestling on SmackDown occasionally, but you are a part of the show. Throw his ass in the intro, and that sort of thing, and at least have one good year where you're just getting reps, getting matches, maybe even winning some championships, and then maybe go back to doing something part-time so you can work on your other outside projects. I don't know. I don't know what Logan Paul's motives are, or what he thinks he wants his future to be in wrestling. But I hope that, if they're willing to put him in a match this big, that this is something that, he takes seriously and hopefully succeeds in. That would just be crazy if this guy is able to make it to the top of the ladder, so to speak. Now, if anybody wondering if WWE is going to put the belts on Logan Paul, no, they're not going to do that. They better not anyway. So no, I don't see any way Logan Paul wins this match or at all. I don't want to see him get screwed. I don't need 9 Bloodline members out there or The Miz or something like that coming out there to screw Logan Paul. I think this can be a match that just happens and Roman can just beat him. If you want a Bloodline, appearance, that's fine. The Usos will likely be at ringside, maybe even Logan Paul. If his brother is victorious, maybe Jake jumps over the barricade or something and helps him out. Maybe Logan gets some backup in the form of somebody else. But at the end of the day, no, not with Roman Reigns' run being 2+ years with the Universal title. He's, set up to drop the belt to either The Rock or Cody Rhodes or somebody major at WrestleMania, perhaps. Kevin Owens, of course, also deserves to be taking one of those belts off of Roman Reigns. So the last thing in the world I would like to see is Logan Paul win these belts. So I should preface me having no problem with the Roman and Logan match by saying I only have no problem with it provided Roman Reigns retains the title, which I firmly believe he will. But you never, ever know these days, especially with Triple H. But both guys did their jaw-jacking a little bit. Logan Paul did a great job talking about how, everything he set out to do, he's, excelled in, and he decided he wanted to be a WWE wrestler, and here he is in his 3rd match. He makes good points, and he is right in the main event against Roman Reigns, against WWE's top star, and he did that 3 matches in, so that is pretty impressive. talks a little bit of smack to Paul Heyman, and that makes Roman Reigns stand up. He gets in Logan Paul's face. He shoves him, and Logan's like, what, man? I thought you were supposed to be professional. And Triple H steps in, and, it was pretty well done. Triple H looked almost irked at Roman Reigns, like, come on, man. You're the fucking champ. Chill. You got to do this photo. Just don't touch him. So they kind of get face-to-face, and they do the big photo op there, which was really good. But it was funny how Triple H was kind of like upset at Roman for being the one to lose his cool. Roman's got all the backup. He's got all the experience. Logan is an immature kid. He's all by himself over there. For the fact that Logan had more, poise and maturity in his demeanor than Roman did is kind of telling for their matchup coming up on November 5th, by the way. So this is still a full month and a half, nearly 2 months away, a good 7 weeks away from this event. We have Extreme Rules ahead of that. So we'll have to see if they do anything Extreme Rules. It looks like Roman will not be defending the title at Extreme Rules. At least I don't think he will, unless they do some sort of a tag match. Maybe they do. Maybe it's Roman and a Bloodline guy. Maybe it's Roman and Sammy against Logan Paul and Kevin Owens or something. That could definitely be a possibility. We will see what they do at Extreme Rules. But Roman and Logan set for Crown Jewel. Interesting stuff. Like I said earlier when we were doing the intros here, there was just kind of like a non-story floating around right up in the Hollywood Reporter about the possibility of a Warner Brothers Discovery and NBC Universal merger. Apparently Warner Brothers Discovery internally is a complete clusterfuck mess right now, to the point where they've even brought in, they've got basically like a Nick Khan guy. I think his last name is Zasloff or something like that. He's there basically to set the place up to be sold off. And I think that's where a lot of these rumors were coming from, because in this write-up, they did mention that a lot of insiders believe that the merge could happen, even though the FTC could step in, could be facing a lot of antitrust issues, and there's a lot of hurdles there to even, for the government to even allow a merger of this size to happen. But in about 18 months, negotiations will be allowed to begin, and they can potentially do some sort of a merger like this if they are able to overcome all of these potential hurdles. But based on the mess that everything is behind the scenes in Warner Brothers Discovery, Tony Khan has mentioned his relationship with them since the merger, and a lot of people thought that AEW was going to suffer from that, but he said the relationship and working with those people has been really good. They've even incorporated Shark Week and the House of the Dragon stuff and whatnot into some of their programming, which the network has been very happy with. Plus, they're consistently ranked number 1 or number 2 on cable pretty much every week. This isn't going to be, a property that the network is not going to want, not when they're, doing this type of numbers for them. So they're going to stick around despite the merger. But in about 18 months, if there were, let's just say these 265 hurdles they have to overcome to get this done gets done, then we have Raw, Rampage, and Dynamite on the same network. Of course, SmackDown will still be on a separate deal with Fox, but that puts 2 AEW shows in the same company, so to speak, as a WWE show. And I don't know how the hell that would work, but WWE's got TV negotiations coming up next year, I believe. So they will have, or that might be 2024 as well, but there's going to be a lot of interesting things happening 2023 through 2025 in terms of TV deals and where things go and where things are going to land. So that's kind of interesting there. But at the end of the day, since this is so far off and also seems a little bit on the unlikely side, I still thought it was worth mentioning, because if it did happen, it would put WWE and AEW under the same umbrella, and I just don't know how that would work. And WWE would probably just flat out refuse that. So we'll see what happens in 18 months. We'll revisit that when we're all a year and a half older. Good news in WWE land, kind of. I don't know if this is good news or bad news, but WWE has removed Ezekiel from their internal roster page and replaced him with Elias. So this became kind of apparent once Triple H took over. They did the deal on Raw where Kevin Owens finally came out and murdered Ezekiel once and for all, and it looked to be the end of Ezekiel, but then they shared the family photo from the hospital with all the Elias family members, and it made you think that maybe Ezekiel could still make a comeback, but apparently it's going to be his brother Elias making his return to the company to avenge his brother, and will probably be targeting Kevin Owens, I would suppose, right off the bat. So I guess we should keep a lookout for Elias and his return some point real soon on WWE TV. Let's transition. No, let's stick with WWE. A few more returns possibly coming for WWE. We have to have our weekly or bi-weekly Bray Wyatt mention. Still a lot of talk about Bray Wyatt. Could he potentially return to the company? Is he coming back? Of course, we saw last night on SmackDown some very weird lights come into play that a lot of people feel is Killer or Karrion Kross related, but could potentially be Bray Wyatt. Meltzer spoke about Bray Wyatt this week in The Observer and said that there were talks with WWE, I think once or twice. Both had stalled, but both parties leaving the door wide open. Apparently, Bray Wyatt's asking price is quite a lot, which is probably why we haven't seen him in AEW yet either. And also, it was noted by Meltzer that Triple H is planning even more surprises. Many of these surprises are ones that fans aren't even talking about. So I'm assuming those are returns, and that's probably anybody left that was released in that big slew of releases. A lot of those Triple H NXT guys that were let go. One name comes to mind, somebody like Oni Lorcan. You guys can maybe help me out with some more possibilities or suggestions. Also some New Japan stars. Maybe Triple H wants to go out there and make a play for a Will Ospreay or somebody like that. I don't know. But I think anybody who was let go that had a pretty decent role in NXT, Bobby Fish could be another guy I think would be likely candidates to come back, because NXT, as we know, is undergoing a little rebrand as well, and they're going to need to replenish that if they're going to be sending up some guys to the main roster as well. So according to Meltzer, Triple H has a lot of plans to bring back some more stars, a lot of surprises. Some of those are ones we're not even thinking about, but some of them are pretty massive ones like Bray Wyatt. So when you think about Bray Wyatt and Sasha Banks and Naomi, I feel like Sasha and Naomi will come back to the company at some point once the time is right. I don't know if you want to bring them back in the middle of the Raw, in the middle of Monday Night Football season, randomly. So I would bring them back in a pay-per-view or Survivor Series or somewhere major. But Bray Wyatt, same thing. I'm really hoping that they're able to bring him back in, because Triple H seems to really enjoy and want to tap into a lot of that Bray Wyatt creativity. Even said that when he has the interview with Ariel Helwani a couple of weeks ago, talked about how creative Bray Wyatt is and how, it's really necessary to tap into that creativity and present it and make it work for pro wrestling and make sure that whatever you do is something that does work. And that's tough to manage, but he seems to be open to the challenge. And I would love to see WWE, take on the mind of Bray Wyatt and try to create or, make something extremely exciting, possibly even doing a modern day Wyatt family or maybe a new faction. That can sometimes be fun. Of course, Malachi Black, as we know, was given his conditional release by AEW. So I'm pretty sure, without knowing the details of that, I don't know if any details have come out, but without knowing any, if he's given a conditional release, there's got to be something in there that says, okay, cool, you can be released, but you cannot go to WWE tomorrow. So hopefully he's got some sort of massive, at least hopefully for AEW, but likely Malachi's got some sort of a massive no-compete clause before he can come in. But if he did, Wyatt and Black together could be a lot of fun. I just really think it's time, and I hope we see Bray Wyatt come back to the WWE this year. If they want to bring him back at a place like Crown Jewel, that could be cool. It would also be fun to see him come back like right at the end of the year. Like, I don't know if there's any SmackDowns or anything on New Year's Eve or the 30th or whatever. Maybe the very last image we see of 2022 is the resurrection of Bray Wyatt or The Fiend or whatever, and they figure out some sort of a way to show his face and then you fade to black and that's the last image of 2022. I would love for something like that to happen. I also think, though, we have the Day 1 pay-per-view coming up this year, too, on January 1st. So, maybe that won't work. But Bray Wyatt coming back to the company is something I really, really hope that we see. Now, speaking of Bray Wyatt, like I said earlier, there was some sort of weird thing that happened last night on SmackDown during the commercial break. SmackDown was actually in Anaheim, which is just a short trip up the road for me. I could have gone, but I didn't want to. But last night during a commercial break, for the live audience there, the lights went completely off. The Tron and the LED screen on the stage was just completely off. And they started playing the song White Rabbit, old Jefferson Airplane song. And a lot of fans pointed out that the White Rabbit was the alter ego of Karrion Kross in Lucha Underground. And once they started playing that, a red light actually started shining. And this was all done during one of the commercial breaks. So obviously they're trying to tell us something. A lot of fans pointed out that, like I said, White Rabbit could be a direct reference to Karrion Kross and what he did in Lucha Underground. But with the red light, it also teases a little bit of Bray Wyatt. And could it possibly be teasing both? You know, because Karrion Kross, we're not really quite sure what he's up to yet. Currently locked in his feud with Drew McIntyre. But if this is not related to Kross, it might be related to Wyatt. But since this was kind of Kross's deal in Lucha Underground, it feels like it should be more suited for him. But I'm also not too familiar with that character, so I'll have to look a little bit of it up and see what that was all about. But that's really interesting, and that's the type of shit I like to see, is that's just for the live crowd. Triple H giving them a little tease, let them talk about it on social media and speculate, and that's awesome, you know? So we'll see if they bring that into TV. Maybe this week on Raw, they do something for the home audience. Maybe they do the same thing. I mean, if they've paid to have the song White Rabbit licensed, you know, they obviously have plans to use that in some capacity. So if they do it on Raw this week, that could be very telling, and that might reveal exactly what their plans are there. But I'm really interested to see what that's about. If it's about Kross or Wyatt, I find both equally interesting. So I hope that it has to do with one of them for sure. So that's kind of the latest there with the returns in WWE. I guess we should talk a little bit about the latest on the Brawl Out Fallout. Of course, All Out a couple weeks ago, the big media scrum, where CM Punk just trashed everybody and then got in a brouhaha with the Elite in the locker room. We have seen the returns of Pat Buck, Christopher Daniels, Brandon Cutler, and Michael Nakazawa, who were all suspended basically for cautionary reasons because they got physically involved, even though they were just trying to break it up. I think AEW and Tony Khan just suspended everybody outright that got physical until they investigated and figure out what exactly is going on here. There are no real new items of news coming out of this whole situation. Things have gone very quiet. So, you know, if there were people feeding news to some of the journalists or some of the websites, that seems to have cooled off now, especially after a couple of talent meetings where they said, hey, cut the shit. So, you know, maybe it's not as easy to get information as, you know, it was a few weeks ago. Fightful Select had a couple of great articles. Sean, of course, knows everybody. And, you know, kind of detailing the latest on this and some of the thoughts and feelings from a backstage perspective, from a talent perspective. And that echoed a lot of what I was talking about earlier, is that at least from what we've seen on TV, it does appear that they are morale-wise trying to get the ship righted behind the scenes. And I think how everything's been handled with the suspensions and all of that has been done very well. They've done everything they needed to do. The locker room seems to have, you know, gotten together and moved forward. The fans are, you know, ready to move forward as well. And AEW is continuing business as usual by trying to provide good quality wrestling on TV twice a week, which is what they're doing. Now, you could argue that the whole situation shouldn't have happened to begin with, and it made the whole company look very Bush League and amateur, which it did. No arguments here. But in terms of how they've handled it after the fact, you can't change it. You can't stop it from happening now. It's already happened. All you can do is, you know, try to, you know, move forward as best you can, you know, after a really, really messed up situation where you're stripping 4 champions and suspending people. But it seems like, you know, AEW is trying to move in the right direction, but we still don't know the status of the Bucks and Kenny Omega and CM Punk. Of course, last week the story was out that the Young Bucks had sent feelers through some talent or a third party to WWE to see if they would have any interest in them when their contracts were up in AEW in 2024. That was all done and rumored prior to the fight backstage, so it had nothing to do with that. But there has been a lot of talk of, oh, CM Punk could leave. Could any of these parties wind up in WWE? I say no, even with everything going on and with CM Punk and AEW, and even if he's pissed, to go to WWE just for spite, just to spite AEW, isn't going to solve anything. All CM Punk is going to do is bring the same, you know, turmoil into that backstage environment that he did in AEW. And I'm not sure if Triple H would really want anything to do with that, even if it did bring in a ton of ratings. But even with the ratings possibility that CM Punk brings in, does he though? Because the ratings have been higher since he's been gone. They scored a great rating, 1.2 million they got on Wednesday night without CM Punk, without the Elite. So maybe CM Punk doesn't equal ratings after all, but still a lot to be worked out in terms of CM Punk and if he's going to return to the company or not, if Ace Steel is going to return to the company. Kenny Omega is currently in Japan. He's there doing the Tokyo Game Show, doing some appearances for that. There's also some AEW talent there. I know I saw a clip of Christopher Daniels in the ring with Takeshita, at some sort of little convention there in Tokyo. So a lot of guys are over there doing the video game stuff. And, of course, AEW's video game is Fight Forever? Is that what it's called? Is about to be released or has been released. Still, because I'm not a gamer, I still can't tell. I've heard positive things, and I've also read a lot of negative things about it. Don't know if the game is going to be good or not. You gamers can let me know on that. But, CM Punk is right there front and center of the cover art and all of that. So, that game is going to be a little bit awkward, especially if CM Punk does not come back. There has been some, I guess, agenda stories and narrative pushing going on around the situation. Voices of Wrestling podcast talked a lot about CM Punk. Seems like this information or these ideas were kind of planted in there for them to get out to maybe counter a lot of the negative press that CM Punk is getting in terms of his demeanor backstage and the turmoil that he causes and, all that stuff. So now you're starting to hear stories to the opposite effect of how CM Punk likes to stay late. He watches every single match. He offers advice to the young wrestlers, and FTR has mentioned on record how much they like and respect CM Punk, and there have been some pro CM Punk sentiments coming out this week, but a lot of that is probably being pushed because you want to counter all of these terrible stories that you're hearing about most of the talent, most everything that we've read. Most people are of the agreement that CM Punk was unprofessional. There's a reason most people are of the agreement or in the agreement that CM Punk acted unprofessional, because he was completely unprofessional in that whole situation, regardless if it was a receipt or who started or what. These guys are not five. And I've heard a lot of people say CM Punk had every right to do what he did. Hangman started it. I'm like, what are you, fucking 8? Two wrongs don't make a right. And CM Punk's wrong was way wronger than Adam Page's initial wrong on that promo where he went into business for himself that no fan in the fucking world recognized. The only person that thought he did that was CM Punk, and then he told the world about it, and then the fans were like, oh yeah, he did. So I just think that a lot of that is really, really silly, and CM Punk trying to get some stories, some positive stories about himself out there is, not that surprising. But with that being said, you're going to hear positive and negative from both. And the Voices of Wrestling podcast, they would also talk about how the Elite would leave meetings early and all that stuff. So it was a lot of pro CM Punk stuff, a lot of anti-Elite stuff. And you've also heard stories to the opposite effect, trashing Punk, praising the Elite. Nobody really knows who, exactly should be blamed for the fight itself, but you can't go out and say those things that CM Punk did and not expect somebody to kick your fucking door down. So apparently CM Punk too did throw the first punch. That's one of the stories that's been floating around. Nobody really knows for sure. It's a shame that none of this was caught on camera, but as of right now, none of the primary parties, the CM Punk, the Bucks, and Kenny, none of them have been reinstated yet. But the belief is that Kenny Omega probably will. The more stories we've been reading about this stuff, the more it's been sounding like he did not seem to be an aggressor or an instigator in the fight at all. If anything, he might have been trying to calm things down a little bit. There was even the talk that he tried to get CM Punk's dog out of the way. So Kenny Omega does not seem, based on the various accounts that we've read, he does not seem to be someone who was storming in there looking for a fight. I think maybe the Bucks were a little bit more upset, and they were the aggressors here. And of course, CM Punk throwing punches and Ace Steel biting people or whatever was going on. It sounds like, I believe, probably in a short amount of time, within the next couple of weeks, I think we'll probably see Kenny Omega come back, especially if Bryan Danielson wins the AEW title. Bring Kenny back. That's one of the biggest matches you can do. Danielson and Kenny Omega for the AEW title, and then have Kenny Omega lose. Have Kenny Omega be Bryan Danielson's first opponent to defeat after he wins the title, just to give Omega a loss. Just maybe that's just one more thing to give to him. Okay, we're just going to beat you here. We're going to beat you clean. Label lock, tap out, the whole deal to Bryan Danielson. Once that's done, it's over. No more punishment, no more bullshit. You're back to being the Kenny Omega of old, but I would at least bring him in there to do that. That is, if Bryan Danielson, when I do believe he wins the AEW title on Wednesday, if he keeps that title. So hopefully MJF doesn't do some quick cash in here, but could be a great way to cash in on some good ratings coming off their pretty solid number they got last week. But I think Kenny will probably be back pretty soon. I believe the Bucks probably will be back pretty soon as well. CM Punk, since he's injured, I think they're going to take their time with him. I think after Kenny and the Bucks serve their suspensions, they will be back. They both might have to do a job or two right at first. That's what I would do. If I was Tony Khan, I'd make all three of them lose 2 matches, and then maybe Kenny just one big one. Maybe have the Bucks lose a couple, drop a couple, and then boom, it's over. It's under the bridge. Let's move forward now and pretend it never happened. And then in terms of CM Punk, just sit and wait and see. Let him get injured, let him get healed from his injury, and gauge whether or not you think bringing him back is a good idea. You can look at, because maybe that's another thing Tony Khan wants to do. Like, let me just hold off. The CM Punk injury might be a blessing because now Khan can just sit there and wait and see how the TV does. If his ratings are just as strong and they're getting just as good of numbers or better without CM Punk, what's the rush to bring him back? Why reintroduce, that negativity into your locker room when things are going just fine without him? So maybe Tony Khan's going to do the smart thing here and actually just wait and see. And if, things are struggling or they need a little shot in the arm or they need some sort of big surprise or big return, then you kind of have CM Punk waiting in the background there, and you can hopefully get everybody in a room, Kenny and the Bucks and CM Punk, say, hey, can all you little fuckers work together? Good, let's go out and make some money. But, at the end of the day, if CM Punk left and never returned to wrestling, I would also kind of think that that's just the best for everyone. So we'll have to wait and see. But like I said, no real news coming out on that other than just a few of those suspensions are finally up. And the more accounts and stories we hear, the more it seems like it should not be long before the Elite returns to TV. Just feels like they will be at some point. Of course, that investigation will uncover what it's going to uncover. So we'll keep our eye on everybody involved there. But in the meantime, AEW still moving forward and firing on some pretty good cylinders right now. And I'm excited as hell for Arthur Ashe on Sunday. That's looking great. Where did I leave off in the news here? Last couple things I want to talk about before we get into some wrestling results and comings and goings and things like that. I guess we should talk about the NXT rebrand. That's very exciting stuff. I'm very happy about that. I have not watched any NXT the entire year. It was one full year of them being NXT 2.0, the horny splashy paint, or the horny graffiti, or whatever you want to call it. And I was just kind of turned off by that. I didn't really like it. I liked the NXT of old, but AEW came around and that kind of became the new NXT, and a lot of guys like Adam Cole's and Samoa Joe's found themselves over there. NXT is trying to kind of rebrand themselves as this 2.0, and it did have its fans. It did. There were some things they did that was very good, but it resembled very little of what the old NXT Black and Gold was. Well, once it was decided and announced that NXT UK was going to be wrapping up, and of course, a couple weeks ago, they ran the big Worlds Collide show where Braun Breaker and Mandy Rose unified the NXT and UK heavyweight titles each. And that started the rumors there was going to be basically like an NXT 3.0, and there was going to be some sort of a relaunch there where the NXT UK people were going to be incorporated into the new NXT. There was a few releases, of course, as well, where they trimmed some of the fat, and we were going to kind of get a new and improved looking NXT. So we kind of had a feeling that was coming up. But then on Tuesday, which was a really interesting show on Tuesday night, Solo Sikoa actually beat Carmelo Hayes for the North American title, which was kind of surprising. But during the show or after the show, there was a little video package there with Shawn Michaels where they showed highlights of NXT and also told the NXT fans that even though people develop and move on, we still want to acknowledge and remember the past and remember our past. And we will always be NXT, and we will not shy away from who we used to be and who we are. And it was a really nice little message. And at the very end of it, they revealed what appears to be the brand new NXT logo. It's basically the same font style as the current 2.0 logo, but the 2.0 is gone, and it's no longer colored in multicolored paint or painted in multicolored paint. It is now basically kind of resembles the old way. It's probably a love child. Basically like it's a love baby. That's what it is, a love baby of like the old Black and Gold and the new 2.0. You'll make a love baby between those. That'll be what the new NXT logo is. And it looks pretty good. It's back to the Black and Gold, but also some white in there as well. So it's like white, black, and gold. But just the fact that there's black and gold involved and that stupid paint is gone got fans really excited that maybe NXT can be venturing back to a little bit of their old identity, or maybe a little bit of a combination of the two, because the old black and gold from 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19 even, that was very, had a very indie wrestler drive to it. It was a lot of Gargano and Ciampa and Adam Cole and guys like that. Amazing matches. And they had some good stories too, but you didn't see who's the big diva Mabel looking guy that dances with his butt and Joe Gacy's and stuff. You didn't see a lot of those guys. Cameron Grimes you did. He was funny. And they had some maybe over the top personas there, but not like you see now. And they certainly didn't have a lot of that sexual stuff going on either. So I think that the new NXT, which I guess is essentially going to be 3.0, even though they're not calling it that, is going to kind of be a combination of the old and a combination of the new. And I really, really like that, because whatever the hell Vince and Bruce, whatever the hell their vision for 2.0 was, I'm glad it's gone. I'm glad Triple H is, making these decisions and say, let's, go in this direction now. I think the fans are happy to see it go back to the black and gold with a little bit of white. And if this all kicks off this coming Tuesday, I'm really curious what it's going to look like. I think they're still going to run shows at the PC, but, it would be cool if they could somehow get back to Full Sail, or, maybe find another venue or whatnot. But I thought the black and gold worked okay in the PC before, when they had the big plexiglass and, all that during the pandemic. So if they kind of made, just redesign the PC a little bit for NXT, this new version, I think it can work out just fine, at least in the short term, until they want to maybe branch out and find a bigger venue to, produce TV from. I don't know, but really excited to see how all of that looks. And, now I'm happy to say that I will probably start taking a look at a little bit more of NXT. I'm not going to have the time to watch it every week. That's going to be tough, but I'll try to watch it a hell of a lot more than I did 2.0, because I basically just decided to abandon NXT. Once it went to 2.0, I'm like, I'm done. I already watched Raw, SmackDown, Rampage, Dynamite. We do podcasts every week. We got watch-alongs. I don't have time to watch everything. So it was kind of nice not have to worry about NXT, or not having to worry about NXT. But now that they're back to, this format, it's going to be worth checking out, I think. And it'll be cool to see who gets called up, what kind of direction they're going to go in here, if they're going to maybe have Braun Breaker lose the belt to somebody so he can get called up right away, maybe by the end of the year, or Survivor Series. Mandy Rose, of course, has been doing amazing work down there. And, she was already kind of turning heads when she was on the main roster, but sending her back there and letting her really, evolve in the way that she has, I think she's accomplished a lot in this short amount of time down there, and is really ready and poised now for a main roster run. And she's going to have a lot more impact and stand out and have a lot more presence on the main roster this time around, once they finally decide to make that move with her, which probably will be coming pretty soon too, maybe in the next few months or weeks even. We'll have to see. But excited about the black and gold, thrilled that weird 2.0 shit is over. My best performing tweet of all time was regarding this, when I put a clip up of Back to the Future 2, when Doc is explaining the timelines, and he's like, sometime in the past the timeline skewed into this tangent and created an alternate 1985, and that's what NXT 2.0 felt like. It felt like we had this weird time period where everything just went into, slipped into another dimension, or we were in an alternate universe somewhere where NXT was nothing like what it resembled, and that's all over now, and we're back on track to what NXT was. And this weird little in-between thing is almost something that, like it was a dream or something. That would have been fun too. Have Triple H wake up one morning, and we talked about this too, I think, with Tony Khan and All Out. Like, what if he just woke up and decided all of All Out was a dream and none of it ever happened? Moxley's still the champion and all that. They could still do that. They could have done that in NXT, have a little dream sequence there with Triple H sleeping in his bed like the end of Super Mario 2. And he's dreaming about all this shit, and he woke up and he's like, wow, what a bad dream. I'm happy that we're still the black and gold, or whatever. Something like that might have been fun. But happy to see what the new NXT logo and rebrand will bring to us as wrestling fans. Now that they got some of those UK talents in there, that roster has got pretty strong. So should be fun to see what they do going forward. Let me cruise back over to the chat and knock out any super chats that are here. And please beg you guys for some likes on this video. Please hit the thumbs up button if you don't mind. Yeah, here we go. Let me knock out a couple more of these super chats. Before we get into, I want to talk about Raw, SmackDown, and Dynamite and Rampage a little bit as well, because there's some things we need to discuss there. Thomas Aridia, you are back with $2. Thank you for that. Going to be at Raw in San Jose this Monday. That's where Raw is. Okay, San Jose. Right on. I think that's the building where Triple H tore his quad, right? The Benoit and Jericho tag match. I think that was in San Jose, if I remember right. Nick, is it possible that they kick out Sammy and Logan's backup as Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens? I don't know. Sami Zayn is a babyface right now. He's just too funny is what he's doing. Eventually, the Bloodline is going to murder Sammy, yes, and they are going to kick him out. But I'm almost like in no rush to see that happen. Oh, there you go. Bronson Reed is another guy that I feel like they should not have released. He was even getting main roster looks. Wasn't he on SmackDown or main event or something, and then they just released him? He's good. Definitely bring back Bronson. Fandango, maybe. I'm not sure about Fandango. But Fandango and Tyler Breeze for fun. Why not? Alistair, yes, could be coming back at some point. Maybe Matt Cardona, Bo Dallas. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine that Wyatt family: Bray Wyatt, Bo Dallas, Aleister Black, and Braun Strowman. I thought Bo Dallas is like out of the wrestling business. I think he's managing a Dairy Queen or something now. I don't know what he's doing, but did not seem like he's really on the wrestling radar. And I don't see him taking any bookings ever. What's up, Ramon Coffee? Good to see you as well. Hassan, Midwest Goon, Luis, all you new ones popping in. Good to see you. Spectre, appreciate that $10, my friend. Couple of messages in here from you. 2-month member, Shoot Brother, Spectra. Thanks for the $10, dude. Hey, Greg, didn't get a chance to super chat in a week or so, but wanted to get my Punk thoughts out there. He was a hero of mine. Why I quit drugs. I hate that he's become such a cancer on the industry. Sad. It is sad, especially when you find somebody that you admire or maybe inspires you to do something, and then you find out something about them that really disappoints you. But that still should not fill you with any regret at all, because Punk is not 100% bad. Punk has a shitty attitude. Punk can be an asshole. There's a part of Punk's personality that's just really, really unsavory. It doesn't mean this guy is a serial killer fucking asshole. He just happens to have some parts of his personality that aren't great. But there are also sides of CM Punk that I'm sure are very likable, makes him a really good guy. Of course, he's got an incredible amount of drive and willpower and ability to lay off things like booze and drugs. And since he is a public figure and he's a celebrity and a wrestling star, when you're like that and you have that part of your life, the straight edge lifestyle that he lives, that can offer and be an inspiration to people who look up to you. And that's another thing that CM Punk and a lot of people should think about. If you have the privilege of being people's hero, you should be able to carry yourself that way, and don't do a whole bunch of shit that's going to disappoint the people that you've inspired to potentially get help or clean themselves up or anything like that. And that's what's sad about stuff like that. And it's happened to me before. I only agree with about 45% of what Bret Hart says, and he's my favorite wrestler of all time. That's just the way it goes. But yeah, whenever you have somebody who inspired you or a hero or anything like that, and later in life they do something to disappoint you, that always hurts, and that's a shame. But I certainly wouldn't let that change your mind, or anything that you've done, any changes you've made in your life. Don't undo that because of CM Punk, but I understand the disappointment of, what people like that can do, especially when you admire them. Member Milestone Chat, guess it's already been 2 months that I've been a Shoot Brother. Makes me think back, been watching you since Punk's pipe bomb, maybe even longer. That's just the first I remember. Yeah, I remember I was barely even doing YouTube at the time. I wasn't even in town. I was out of town. I was living here in California, but I was all the way in upstate New York when the pipe bomb happened. And I didn't even have a Twitter back then. So maybe I did. I think I was just reading comments on like my old YouTube videos and like, oh my God, good mic work. You got to comment on CM Punk's pipe bomb. And I wasn't even able to talk about it till like I got home, like a few days later or something. It was a long time ago. But yeah, man, Spectre, you've been here a long time. Proud to have you on board as a family member, and glad we are now 2 months in. You were one of the first people to sign up for the memberships. So always a pleasure, my friend. Spaz is chiming in with $5. Good to see you, dude. Sup, Greg and chat. Cheap plug, episode number 2 of WWE last week. It'll drop Monday at 10 a.m. Toronto time. That'll be that'll be 7 a.m. for me. Holy shit. Check your tube and pod platforms. Right on. Yeah, and I think, and Sean Swaby too, you're straight edge too. I think there's a lot of people that CM Punk inspired, to be straight edge. You don't need drugs and alcohol to get through life. And that shit can slow you down. And so whenever you have somebody that, is, a star that can inspire you to do that, I always think that's incredibly positive. So don't let it get you down. Don't worry about CM Punk. I'll try to inspire you in the meantime. How about that? Am I a good enough substitution for Cupcake Muffin Punk? I hope so. Trey Williams, you thought Stone Cold Steve Austin was my favorite of all time? He's one of my favorites of all time. But no, the only favorite of all time I've ever had has been Bret Hart. After that, I stopped really caring about having an absolute favorite. I had favorites, a whole bunch of people I loved, but not one person that I was just diehard over everybody else. Bret and Randy Savage were really it for me because back then I was young, and when you're younger, you tend to have more, clear-cut black and white favorites. As an adult, I more just appreciate the game than the individual players. But Bret and Savage for me were my all-time favorites ever. But Austin and Rock and guys like that are definitely on my list too, for sure. No, Bray Wyatt shouldn't come back. What a weird take. Yes, Bray Wyatt should. FTR number 1 tag team this year? Sure, they're my favorite tag team. I love FTR. Anyway, let's catch up some of the stuff we missed from this past week. Now, like I said, I was not here to watch AEW Dynamite this past week with you guys. We're not going to go through the show like a review, but I am going to talk about what we missed. And, of course, we had the 2 semifinal matches in the tournament that would set up the Moxley and Danielson match that we're going to see next week. So we did see Jon Moxley defeat Sammy Guevara. That was the opening match on Dynamite. Hit the Death Rider for the win. Fun to see Ty Mello and Anna Jay get involved there. Ty Mello kicking Jon Moxley in the balls, and Renee Paquette tweeting about that and her unhappiness with Mello's decision to do that to her man. I thought that was pretty funny. Good MJF promo this week as well, as always, and he kind of revealed what the status of all of Stokely Hathaway and his goons were. Of course, they helped him win the casino ladder match at All Out, and we never really got that much of an explanation the prior week. So this week we did very intense promo by MJF where he introduced Hathaway's group that is called The Firm. That's going to be the name of the stable. And they are basically a stable on retainer. Moxley said it's his first ever. It's the first ever stable on retainer. They're going to be there for him when needed, but basically not all the time. So it's not going to be, like a, a pinnacle type of thing. Stokely then gets on the mic. MJF just leaves at this point. Stokely's now in the ring with his crew, which consists of Lee Moriarty, Morrissey, the Ass Boys, and Ethan Page. And Stokely kind of goes through his motives of why he brought all of these guys together, individually singles them out, says Lee Moriarty has desires to be the Ring of Honor Pure Champion. The Ass Boys have aspirations of being tag team champions, and Ethan Page wants to be the All-Atlantic champion. He also tells Morrissey that he loves him and gives him a big hug, and Morrissey just stands there basically completely unaffected by this little tiny man giving him a hug around his waist, which was a hilarious visual. And Stokely basically says that all of these members are on call, but they'll go their own ways when they're not associated with the firm. So that's going to be weird. You never really seen a faction come together like that where they're going to be ready to go on call whenever, but whenever they're not working together, they're going to be going off on their separate ways. And that just seems like it's going to open up the door for all sorts of fucking problems, especially if these guys get called into work when they already got shit going on. What if Ethan Page has got an All-Atlantic Championship match scheduled against Pac on a Rampage, and then MJF insists that Ethan Page put himself in a really dangerous situation, either prior to the match or maybe on Wednesday? He's like, no, man, I got a championship match in 2 days. I don't want to go out in the parking lot and try to find Moxley or whatever. He's going to be waiting for me with a lead pipe or whatever. I don't know. But I feel like that's really going to cause some problems there. But we'll see. They could likely play a pretty big role in MJF, maybe even winning that title on whenever they decide to do that. But it looks like each one of these groups or each one of these individuals are going to be targeting gold. So we're going to see if Stokely can add a ton of gold here, because if he's already said that Moriarty, Ass Boys, and Ethan Page are all targeting championships immediately, that means they should get some recent or some pretty, they should be getting some titles matches pretty soon in the near future, I would assume, even though the Acclaimed has got their title match at Grand Slam against Swerve and Our Glory. So we might get the Ass Boys against the Acclaim, which makes a lot of sense. It just leads to more evidence that the Acclaimed absolutely will. One of the most predictable matches of the year, I think, in professional wrestling will be the Acclaimed and Swerve and Our Glory on Wednesday. They will definitely be winning the titles, and that would set it up perfectly for the Ass Boys to challenge them for the titles, since Billy Gunn is kind of with the Acclaim now and all that works out. And Ethan Page going after the All-Atlantic, I think, is good too. This is a guy that I really think needs to find a good direction, because he's too good of a talker, too much ability, presence, and size just to be sitting around there doing nothing. So he's kind of just moved factions. He just moved from Dan Lambert to Stokely, which isn't going to do much if they don't actually, start pushing him outward. And they did look like they would do that, as we would see later on with the Pizza Man. Stokely did apparently get a little bit of heat, perhaps, on his promo. Some felt it was a little long-winded. Some felt that it was designed more to get himself over than the individual people in his stable. I didn't notice that watching the promo. He talked a lot, but Stokely's a good talker, and he did speak about each one of his stablemates individually. I didn't really catch that, or that didn't really resonate with me, that Stokely talked too long and tried to get himself over, winning business for himself. I didn't see any of that, but he did get a little bit of criticism from the audience for the promo. Didn't really bother me at all. I didn't mind it, and I thought the hug to Morrissey was hilarious. We also saw Jungle Boy get a clean win over Jay Lethal, which was good. Good win for Jungle Boy, and he's got another match set up, I think, next week at Grand Slam as well, so it looks like they're putting some wins in front of Jungle Boy while Christian gets healed, which is awesome. Will Hobbs, Powerhouse Hobbs, smashed a jobber. After the match, Ricky Starks hit the ring and brawled with Hobbs. Hobbs powdered out, and the two of them are set to face on that special 2-hour Rampage next week, Rampage Grand Slam on Friday. Pretty good tag team match as well. Swerve and Our Glory retain the tag team titles. Over to the Lucha Brothers. Keith Lee taking a Canadian Destroyer. Not delivering a Canadian Destroyer, taking one. That's crazy. In the end, he would pin Penta for the win. The Acclaim will come out at the end of that as well and say they will win at Arthur Ashe. And, of course, we got that big tag match set up on Wednesday, which is an absolute given. We will see new tag team champions at Arthur Ashe. I just hope that it can get the same level of audience reaction that they would have gotten had they just pulled the trigger at All Out, because that was a really crazy up and down match to the point where we had that really, really close near fall, and it should have been a 3 count, and it wasn't. That immediately turned the fans off, where they were booing the outcome and booing the finish. So luckily for Tony Khan and AEW, they've got Arthur Ashe coming up in just a couple of weeks. You could simply run this match back and right the wrong. But I just hope that the match can get the reaction from the crowd that they would have gotten had the referee's hand come down for 3 in that tag match at All Out. So we will see how that goes. I think Acclaim is definitely going to win. I just hope it can match the level of excitement that the tag match at the pay-per-view did. That's my only concern. We had tag team match, Serena Deeb and Britt Baker teaming up to defeat Toni Storm and Athena. Of course, we still have Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter have got some issues. All 4 of these women are going to be involved in a 4-way match for the title next week. And Toni Storm actually took the pin here. I think she got hit with a chair first. Serena Deeb pinned her. In this case, I don't mind it so much. I'm not a fan of champions getting pinned. I'm not really a fan of them getting pinned at all, but as long as it's not done too often. AEW does not do this a lot. WWE was going through a period there where champions were being pinned, and I'm not exaggerating here, weekly. Every week, Raw and SmackDown, a champion would lose in some capacity. And it was getting really old. AEW does not rely on this too much. They don't do it as often. Every now and then they pin a champion, and of course, whenever they do, the fan, they shouldn't be pinning champions. I'm like, they do it sometimes. They don't do it nearly as bad as WWE. Why don't you complain about the 650 times WWE's pinned champions just in the last 24 months before we start getting pissed about the one time AEW does it? But Still, I'm a big Toni Storm fan. I think she can be as good, if not better, than Britt Baker on their roster. And I'm not really, since she just won the title, and it's an interim title at that, kind of like Jon Moxley. I wouldn't have beat Jon Moxley when he was the interim champion, whether it's in a tag team match or he got hit with a chair or not. I wouldn't do that to Moxley, so why would you do it to Toni? You know what I mean? But the one silver lining here is with Toni Storm getting pinned here, that virtually guarantees that she will retain. And I wouldn't expect her to lose next week at Grand Slam anyway, but she's got to face all three of those women in a fatal four-way next week at Grand Slam. She ain't losing that. She might have taken the pin here, but she won't be taking the pin next week. She might even pin Deeb in that fatal four-way to get the win. That's how it works, right? Fatal four-ways are not eliminations, right? So I think that is what will happen next week. Toni is in no danger of losing the title, but maybe since she did have a tag team partner, you gotta just fucking pinned Athena, but whatever. After the match, Jamie Hayter comes out, still has the problems with Britt Baker, and she could probably play a role as well in that four-way next week. Wouldn't be surprised at all if Hayter shows up and neutralizes Britt Baker or costs her the match somehow, and then Hayter and Britt can maybe do the official split, and it can lead to an actual match between the two. We will see. Shout out to Luigi Primo. Very cool. Luigi Primo, of course, independent wrestler who had a video went viral a couple of weeks ago of him in the ring, flipping a pizza dough and wrestling at the same time, which I thought was great. He was brought into AEW Dynamite this week to do a promo, and all he was able to say, the Luigi Primo promo wasn't even a promo. All he did was say his name, and he's immediately kicked in the face by Ethan Page, which I thought was funny. Danhausen would then show up, and Page said that he's going to take things more seriously, and he's going to start by taking out AEW's Jester. And then Danhausen realized that he's the Jester, and he's like, oh shit. So the two of them would face last night actually on SmackDown. But I loved the appearance by Luigi Primo because that's exactly what it was, and that's all that it was, an appearance. And of course, every time something like this happens, you get these assholes on Twitter, who the fuck is this guy? This is doing for the casuals. Like, I think it's cool that you have a company that sees a guy on social media or a constant retweet of a video of a guy flipping pizzas. Let's bring him in, give him an appearance. Fans will get a kick out of it. Oh, I just saw that guy on Twitter 2 days ago. That's all it was. Luigi Primo is not in the ring beating Pac for the All-Atlantic title. When he's doing that, then we can have this conversation. But in terms of him just showing up for 5 seconds, getting kicked in the face, you're upset about this? Go fuck yourself. It's not a big deal. I thought it was great, but of course, every time AEW brings in some star from the indies or somebody that has any sort of, buzz on the indies, they get all pissy about it and act like it's bad. So what? They're throwing us a bone. They're giving us something that every wrestling fan has seen on social media. Hey, look at that. That's something that WWE just usually doesn't do. So we can rely on AEW for this stuff. I wouldn't get too concerned. Mr. Pizza Man's not going to be in there winning TNT titles from Wardlow or anything like that. Don't worry. He's not going to throw a pizza dough in Wardlow's face and then roll him up and win the TNT title. That's the way some of these fans act. They act like Luigi Primo is going to beat Bryan Danielson. Chill out. He's going to flip some pizzas, mess around with Danhausen, get kicked in the face every now and then. Not a big deal. It's wrestling. It's wrestling. You've seen it before. You know how it works. Chill out. Main event was Bryan Danielson, of course, taking on Chris Jericho, finally getting that monkey off his back and defeating Chris Jericho. Tapped him out to the LeBell Lock. I had no doubt about this match at all. I said as much last week that the minute this whole situation was announced, even prior to that, I was saying that Danielson should be the guy. And then once the title situation was made clear, Tony Khan let us know what he's going to do, who's going to be involved in this little championship mini tournament. Once I saw Danielson's name in there, that's all I was convinced that he's going to be the guy. If it wasn't going to be Danielson, then I just think somebody else would have been in that tournament, and you just go with Mox. So it's going to be Danielson. It's going to be Mox next week. Mox hits the ring after the match, shakes hands with Danielson, little stare down, show respect for next week. And like I said, I have no doubt in my mind that Moxley is going to lose to Danielson, and Danielson's going to be the new AEW champion. They fought at Revolution, I think, earlier in the year, many months ago, and Moxley got the win. Kind of a funky finish there, if I'm not mistaken, right, with the ref and a weird pin submission type of thing. But Moxley technically did get the win there. So I think Danielson is going to get his win back here. As Claudio Castagnoli said last night on Rampage, the Blackpool Combat Club is guaranteed to have 2 world champions in their factions at the conclusion of Wednesday's Dynamite. And that's pretty damn awesome. So they did the stare down. We're going to get that match next week. And like I said, it's going to be Danielson all the way. The only question is if AEW wants to do something crazy with MJF, because I'm not exactly sure of the rules of this poker chip. I didn't think it really acted as a Money in the Bank, but MJF's been saying I can cash this in whenever I want, or I can get a title match whenever I want. So if he can just come out, if this is going to be the Money in the Bank, the new Money in the Bank, which means at the end of Moxley and Danielson, if MJF can just come in there and cash it in and win it, is that what they're going to do? I could see them doing that. I could see them really shaking things up. They might want to divert the attention, so much attention that's been on the Elite and CM Punk brawl, have Danielson win, only to be screwed over by MJF, much like what SummerSlam would that have been? 2013, he beats John Cena, Triple H is the referee, attacks Danielson, Orton cashes in the briefcase, and just sweeps the rug out from under us. Fans freaked out. AEW's got to be careful. They don't want a repeat of that where the fans are pissed. What they want to try to do is create buzz, get people talking. Obviously, you're always going to piss off somebody because fans find a reason to get pissed off about everything. But if you do something that deliberate, that might just piss off everybody, might even piss off me a little bit. So you got to find a way to do something where you can capitalize on the buzz, get everybody talking, and maybe take a little bit of attention away from the CM Punk chatter and all of that. Now, I personally believe you can accomplish that just by putting the belt on Danielson alone. Danielson's extremely beloved and respected, not only by his peers, but the audience. He's the perfect guy and a stark contrast to CM Punk's personality. Perfect guy to put the title on right now. Loved, respected, good locker room leader, and isn't going to cause some of the problems that maybe CM Punk did. And if you just want somebody, a good representation of your company, Mox, of course, is an excellent representation of their company, but he just had his run, a great run in the summer. He was set to take some time off. Let him take his time off. Danielson is a guy. I say he beats Mox. He'll win the title. The question there is how long until MJF cashes in? Does he try to do it right there at the end of Grand Slam? We'll be watching it together on Wednesday, and we will be eyeballing the clock. If we get a finish, because obviously this match is going to be the main event. If we get a finish with 8 minutes left in the show, that's going to tell you something right there. So basically the way I look at it, provided they don't have any overrun planned, the closer we get to the top of the hour without a finish, the more likely we're not going to have an MJF cash in, because you're going to have time to get all that done for MJF to either come out there and say, I'm cashing this in, or if it's a situation where he has to convince Bryan to agree to it. If Danielson's got to say, okay, and MJF's got to talk shit to him on the mic to basically bait him or goad him into a match. You coward, you pussy ass, or whatever. Fight me right now. If you're so tough, you think you can beat me? Put your money where your mouth is. Put the title on the line, WrestleMania 9 style, Hogan and Yoko. Then maybe MJF is able to cash in that way. But I almost think that, one thing at a time. Yes, I think a big swerve would be fun, but that belt has already been hot potatoing a lot. Because Punk won it, got hurt, Moxley carried the interim. Then Punk beat him for it only to get hurt again. So it's like it keeps hopping around. I think the belt should be around the waist of a credible wrestler, at least for a little while. But based on MJF's motives and how he's been talking in his promos and stuff, it's not like MJF's going to sit back and wait. At least I don't think he is. He could. MJF is the exact type of guy to be methodical, but I just don't know if they're going to want to wait forever. So I feel like we could just get MJF and Danielson at the very next pay-per-view, unless maybe Kenny Omega comes back and then we get Kenny and Danielson at Full Gear or something like that, and maybe you do an MJF cash-in deal there. That might be fun. But MJF cashing in his chip, winning the AEW title is something that I would love to see happen. I feel like it probably will happen, especially if MJF has not really signed a contract extension and his contract actually is up in 2024. Putting the belt on him now is only going to make him more attractive to WWE. So if MJF has signed some sort of a deal extension with AEW for the next few years, then yeah, I can probably see him winning the belt pretty soon. But I also want to balance that out with some sort of a Danielson run. Because I don't want to see the repeat of what happened to Danielson in WWE happen here, where, the rug was yanked out from under him a couple of times. Let him run with a world title, at least for a little while, maybe the end of the year, and then you do the title switch with MJF. I'm not sure. But plus, Danielson's got to remain healthy through all this as well, and his health has been a little, sketchy at best. And the last thing you want right now is for your next champion to also have to forfeit the title. That'd be 3 in a row. 3 champions in a row have to forfeit the title. Punk twice and then Danielson, and that would fucking suck. So provided Danielson is healthy and he's, good to go and he can wrestle at least at a high level for the next few months, put the title on him now. He's an excellent champion to have in your championship lineage. Looking back when you see the Jerichos and the Hangman Pages and the Moxleys and the Punks and the Danielsons, that's a pretty good list. And Danielson absolutely should be on it, and I don't think he should be on it for a 1-day or a 5-minute championship run. I think the show should go off the air with the crowd yesing or whatever in Arthur Ashe, with maybe MJF up on the stage watching all this go down. That's the way I see it going. But it's going to be fun either way at Grand Slam on Wednesday. Like I said, we're going to be watching that together. I will have a link up to that probably by tomorrow, so it'll be up on my page and ready to rock for Wednesday, and I'm excited. Let's run through what we've got on tap for Wednesday. Grand Slam, AEW Dynamite. Pac is going to be defending his All-Atlantic title against Orange Cassidy. Like I said, we have that fatal 4-way for the interim women's title. Serena Deeb, Britt Baker, Toni Storm, and Athena. We've got the Acclaimed challenging Swerve in Our Glory, and will beat Swerve in Our Glory for the tag team titles. Jericho challenging Claudio Castagnoli for the Ring of Honor title, which was set up last night at Rampage in an open challenge. And we've got, of course, Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson, one-on-one for the vacant AEW championship. That is all on tap for Wednesday. That's looking pretty good. Looking good. We got 1, 2, it's all title matches. It's Night of fucking Champions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 championships on tap. And I think there's even another match or two stuck in there, because that's only 5 matches. Rampage next week has 8. Count them. Matches planned, 8. It's a 2-hour Rampage, but they got 8 matches on tap next week. It's nuts. But first, let's talk about last night. Ethan Page defeated Danhausen. That was, of course, set up on Dynamite like we just talked about. Matt Hardy lost to Darby Allin. Pretty good one-on-one match there. Darby Allin wins with the Last Supper. At the end of the match, this was awesome. Little fist bump and show of respect by Matt Hardy. Then Darby Allin leaves. Then the lights go out. Come back on. Who's in the ring? House of Black. Sans Malachi. And they attack Matt Hardy. Julia Hart, I think, offers a little distraction on the outside of the ring. Matt Hardy gets taken out. And then Brody King gets on the mic, and he calls out Darby and Sting. And I got to say, I didn't realize this guy could talk. He's got a voice on him. Sting, Darby, get your asses out here. I wouldn't fuck with that guy. I am loving just a little bit I heard from Brody King on the mic. I liked. So maybe I just never really heard him cut promos before. He's big dude, and he said that just because they cut the head off the snake, virtually confirming that Malachi Black is indeed gone from AEW, just because they cut the head off the snake doesn't mean there's no venom left in the snake. So I like that. So maybe it's like a DX Triple H Shawn Michaels situation. Shawn left after WrestleMania 14, and Triple H picked up the ball and ran with it. Now this is Brody King's faction to run with. They even AEW even filed a trademark earlier this week to trademark House of Black, which means that's not going anywhere. That might be just so Malachi can't do House of Black in WWE, because of course he was Aleister Black there. And if he does go back to WWE, at least he can't create a House of Black faction over there. So they're going to let Brody King, I suppose, be the leader of this faction. They're going to continue on with it. It doesn't look like it's going to end. Like I said, they called out Sting and Darby Allin, who came out to the stage, and Brody laid down a no disqualification challenge for Grand Slam, which will happen next week as well. So I kind of like that. I'm glad that they're not going to let Malachi leaving the company stop them from this fact. It felt like he was the heart and soul of this faction, but the fact that they're continuing it on, I think, shows guts. And we'll see. This is an opportunity now for Brody King. With Malachi out, he can now step in as, kind of the leader. You still got Buddy Matthews there, and it would be great if they could add another member. You just replace Malachi with Brody as the leader. You add somebody now to replace Brody to, match up with Matthews. You still got the little Jezebel, Julia Hart, as JR calls her, out there running around as well. And I think this faction, can continue. And if they are going to add somebody to it, I'd like to know and speculate on who that could be. But really happy that the House of Black seems to be continuing, and they got their match next week against Darby and Sting. Penelope Ford tapped out Willow Nightingale last night. Love me some Willow Nightingale. Everybody loves her. She'll make money in her life, I believe. Like I said, Claudio Castagnoli came out, issued an open challenge for Dynamite for his Ring of Honor title, which Jericho accepted. He was on headset, got off the commentary booth, went to the stage and said, yeah, you're on. I will see you this Wednesday, so that'll be good. We also had Samoa Joe defeating Josh Woods to retain the Ring of Honor TV title. Muscle Buster for the win there. After the match, he was attacked by Tony Nese and by Josh and Tony Nese, and was saved by Wardlow. Wardlow came out and made the save. He almost got his hands on Mark Sterling, because as Samoa Joe is cleaning house, as Wardlow is cleaning house, Samoa Joe is hanging on to Mark Sterling's leg, and he can't get away. Samoa Joe grabs him, but Mark is saved by Nese and Josh, and they all run away. And I think right after that was when Excalibur made the announcement. I've just been told by Tony Khan that we're going to see those four involved in a tag team match next week on Rampage as well. And then at the end of that, Wardlow and Samoa Joe cheered their respective titles, and they're going to be teaming up. That's a hell of a fucking tag team right there, Wardlow and Samoa Joe. Holy shit. And this is what we have for next week's Rampage. I only saw 5 matches for Dynamite, but there's like 8 or 9 for Rampage. So get a load of this. Sammy Guevara versus Eddie Kingston. Props to both of those guys for putting their issues behind them and continuing to be able to work this feud. We're finally going to get that match next week on Rampage. We're also going to get Ricky Starks against Powerhouse Hobbs. We're going to get the House of Black against Sting and Darby Allin. Jade Cargill versus Diamante. Jungle Boy versus Rey Fenix. Looks like they're lining up more matches for him to win. That should be a really good one, Jungle and Phoenix. Looking forward to that. Golden Ticket Battle Royal is also happening on Rampage. I have no idea what that is. Hook and Action Bronson are going to be taken on at 2.0 in a tag team match. And in another tag team match, like I said, that was just announced, Wardlow and Samoa Joe teaming up to take on Tony Nese and Josh Woods. That's a lot of matches set for next week's Rampage, and a lot of matches set for next week's Dynamite as well. Grand Slam is looking good. Real good. Let's talk about SmackDown, but before we do, let me cruise back over here to the chat and see what's going on in here. Got a few more, yeah. Okay, we're deleting a lot of Trey. Yeah, Trey Williams, stop saying stupid shit or I'm just going to block you. Just don't be a troll in here, that's dumb. Spaz Phoenix, appreciate 10 more from you, dude. Carmelo had a great match with Ricochet at Worlds Collide, then lost to Solo in another great match. Can we get these guys in a triple threat for the North American title on SmackDown, sorta the NXT showcase? I totally agree, Spaz. I actually think they might do that because I think it's weird that Solo Sikoa won the North American title at all on Tuesday night, the fact that he beat Carmelo Hayes. So that was weird, especially since he just got called up and was just a member of the Bloodline. But like I alluded to earlier when we talked about the Crown Jewel press conference, I thought that maybe they had him win that title simply for the photo op, simply so he didn't have to sit there like Sammy with no belt. That way the entire Bloodline's got gold and Sammy does not. I think that's the image they're trying to paint here. That's why I believe it's very crucial and very important for Sami Zayn to win the 24/7 title as soon as humanly possible from Dana Brooke. Just go schoolgirl her up in catering, roll her up next to the muffins, and just pin her, win the title, and then come strutting out your stuff with the Bloodline like you're a champ at the same level as Roman. That would be comedic gold. So I hope they at least do that with Sammy. But since Solo Sikoa won the title in kind of a crazy decision, makes you wonder that that's got to be a short-lived type of thing. And if Carmelo Hayes does chase him up to the main roster and maybe wins that belt back on SmackDown to give Carmelo not only some exposure to the main roster audience, but also gets him some main roster reps and some time on TV just to be there, just to get a look at him. How does he look in this setting? And if they actually do an NXT North American title match on SmackDown, I'd have no problem with that. Everybody complains about, oh, there's too many belts in AEW. Yeah, that's because they're bringing other faction or they're bringing other companies' belts in there. WWE can do the same thing, bring some NXT titles to the main roster if they want, just to defend them there. It doesn't mean they have to live there. It just means that's where they're defended. So I would love to see one-on-one or do it in a triple threat like you're talking about. You know, put Ricochet in there as well. That would be fun, fun, fun. And Ricochet himself, of course, former North American champion as well. Pizza and orange juice, meal of champions. Nice. I really hate to do this, but I'm just really tired of your shit, Trey. I'm sorry. So I just don't think you're a very good person to be in this chat. So why don't we just get rid of you? All you're doing is trolling, and all you're doing is just running your mouth. Just shut up. Be an adult. It's not hard. Not hard to do at all. Hollywood Guy, thank you very much for the $5. Greg, do you see Roman defending both belts on WrestleMania, one against Cody and one against The Rock, ending his reign with losses? That's come up a couple of times. I've seen the proposal or the pitch since WrestleMania's 2 nights. Why not have 2 title matches and have Roman Reigns defend 1 belt on night 1 and 1 belt on night 2? I don't know, man. That would be a first. Roman Reigns would be the first guy to main event 2 WrestleManias on back-to-back nights. And then if you did that, I don't know if I would really have him lose both belts. I'd probably have him lose 1. I don't know if I would do it that way. I don't know if I would put Roman in 2 main event matches. I think that's the type of stuff that could maybe, ruffle morale feathers a little bit, because that's 2 main events. That's something that should be going to 2 separate people. Having Roman defend them both, might be the only way to ununify the belts, but there's a lot of time between now and WrestleMania, and I swear there's other ways to get these belts ununified. Now, if they're gonna put Roman Reigns in 2 WrestleMania main events, for the sole purpose of ununifying the titles, that I think is stupid, because you can ununify the titles a number of different ways. The only reason I can see them putting Roman Reigns in the main event of 2 back-to-back WrestleMania nights is if they want to do that, if they want to create that history for Roman Reigns, if they want to give him an accolade that nobody else has and probably nobody else will ever have again, because that's going to be a really tough thing to do. It's kind of like the Undertaker streak. It's going to be really hard to find another guy. It's going to be easier to do than the streak, but it's not going to be very ideal for one guy to be involved in both WrestleMania main events. It would have to be a really weird situation to ever get that done again. So I could see them doing it just to put that on Roman Reigns' resume. When they come out to SmackDown and they like to list all the stupid accomplishments of everybody, I can see them putting only guy to main event 2 both nights of WrestleMania or whatever. So I could see that. I like the idea better, the one that was tossed around social media last week, of having some sort of a ladder match. I think Seth Rollins was used as the opponent example, but it doesn't have to be Seth. It can be anybody. It could be Kevin Owens. It could be whoever. And you do a ladder match where both guys are on the ladder and both guys fall off, tearing one of the belts off. And when they hit the mat, they're each holding one of the belts. And so Roman can pull down the Universal title. His opponent can pull down the WWE title. He's lost the WWE title, but Roman's 2+ year reign as Universal Champion remains intact. That's one way to do it. You could also figure out a way to do something at the Royal Rumble or a multi-man match, or you could just simply have Paul Heyman pull some of his, Paul Heyman management contractual skills and write some clause in the contract that says Roman can't lose a particular title on a particular day or in a particular way or in a particular country or something like that, that kind of ununifies them that way. But I would like to think that Triple H would be a little bit more creative than that. And if they really want to make Roman the biggest thing that they've had, maybe even surpassing what John Cena did in the company, one way to do it is having those back-to-back matches at WrestleMania. Now, the only thing about that is that I can't see Roman Reigns building 2 issues at the same time. That's another thing you got to think about. Let's say he's got a match in a program with The Rock, but Cody wins the Rumble. Well, what the fuck is Cody supposed to do until WrestleMania? Twiddle his thumbs? He needs to be in the ring with Roman Reigns cutting promos. But then again, so does The Rock. That could work because Rock's not pulled full time. Even when he was working with Cena, he wasn't there every week. There were weeks where Cena was in the ring by himself. Now that I'm thinking out loud, this might actually work, because there were weeks where Cena had to be on TV by himself. Rock wasn't scheduled to be there, so Cena had to do the job of building the feud alone. Same thing could be happening next year if Rock comes in to work against Roman Reigns. It's not like Rock's going to come in for 3 straight months and be on every single Raw or SmackDown up until WrestleMania. He's probably going to only be on like 2 to 4 TV shows at the most leading up to that WrestleMania match. So in between those times, that's when you do the Cody build. Maybe that could work. It would be weird, but maybe that could work. And even if you did this, I still think this whole idea is far-fetched. But even if you did it, I can't see Roman Reigns losing both matches either. And then you have to wonder about one match overshadowing the other, one match taking away from the other. I think if Roman Reigns faces The Rock, that is a spotlight in a situation that needs to be exclusive to them without any other outside shit floating around. And if Roman Reigns is trying to have the biggest match of his life, but simultaneously trying to build an issue with Cody Rhodes, it's too much. It's too much in my opinion. So even though I think, based on how we talked, I think there is a way for WWE to make that work if they so choose. It's something that I wouldn't do because I think it would cloud and confuse things a little bit. And, especially if The Rock comes back, The Rock coming back is such a huge monumental deal and his window's closing, man. If Rock is not back this year at 39 in LA, when the hell is he coming back? In Philly? For 40? Maybe, but I don't think so. I think this is all set for The Rock. It's all right here. If he's going to come back, he should come back. It's when I want to see him come back because I'm going to be at WrestleMania this year, so I'd like to see Rocky wrestle since I saw him wrestle back in the day many, many times in the Attitude Era. First time I saw Rocky wrestle live was 1997. 1997, saw him live for the first time 25 years ago. So it would be cool to see him 26 years later at WrestleMania 39. I think that would be freaking awesome, man. So yeah, a lot of stuff to figure out with Roman, with The Rock, what's going to happen next year. And I don't think a whole lot's going to happen this year. I think Roman is going to carry the belt until the end of the year. And then once we get into WrestleMania time, then maybe some things are going to start becoming apparent. But a lot of people feel like if The Rock is going to be wrestling Roman Reigns, then they shouldn't be wrestling for the title, or maybe they should just be wrestling with two titles. So I believe that if Triple H and WWE does intend of ununifying these championships again for like the 100th time, that they figure out a way to do that prior to WrestleMania. But if they did it at WrestleMania, that would be a good place for that as well, because that's where they were unified to begin with. That's where Roman Reigns won the titles. It would make sense 1 year later, split them back apart. To, I don't know, just offer a little bit of evenness to this whole weird championship belt trajectory. Also, would be really cool if WWE changed up some belt designs like we talked about, bringing back the old Intercontinental title. Or if you ununify these belts, do something where you can, make the WWE title resemble like a modern-day Winged Eagle, and maybe the Universal resembles a modern-day Big Gold. I've pitched this idea before, and then if you still want to keep your big, ugly, obnoxious WWE logo belts to give out to Super Bowl winning teams, then do it. Give them the big, ugly logo belts. But the belts for TV need to look like the Winged Eagle, the Big Gold. Give us some of that tradition back. Remind us of how long WWE's been around. They got another competitor out there right now, one of WWE's big, competing factors, and one of their biggest advantages to AEW is they have a 57-year head start on them. So let the fans know that. Let them know. Show them a belt that we used to see in the 80s. I just think that would be cool, but I don't know if we're ever going to see that. But if they are going to ununify these belts, I would do something to that effect. That's what I'd do. Spectre, appreciate the $2 from you. You missed my last $5 super chat. No biggie, though. I did? Or did I answer that already? Let's go back up. Oh, yeah. I see it right here. Sorry for that, Spectre. It is a big deal. If I miss a super chat, you need to tell me. I would have gotten to it. I was scrolling that way anyway. MJF has started feuding with Mox, so I feel like Mox will win. But Danielson winning and Garcia belting Danielson like Danielson did would be amazing. Okay, so yeah, a lot of people, and Spectre's not alone. A lot of people feel like Moxley is going to win. I don't, only because he just had that summer of Mox. He took over for Punk and did as good a job, if not better, than Punk would have ever done as champion, wrestling every week, wrestling hard, because he did see the light at the end of the tunnel. He's going to be taking time off, go on vacation, after him carrying the torch there for a while. And you got another very capable, incredible champion in Danielson right there. And I think he would be the best guy. You could maybe still have Mox and MJF feud, because Mox going on vacation, he's not like leaving for 2 months or anything. He's probably just taking a week or two off, maybe a couple weeks off. He'll be back so he can pick up with MJF, and the two of them can feud. MJF and Mox can feud, just no belt, and then Danielson can be the champion. And when Mox and MJF are done, maybe that's when MJF targets Danielson. I don't know. But I still just personally believe in my heart of hearts that Danielson is the right guy. Moxley, yes, deserves it because he's the guy that has been, the fans seem to be behind. Obviously, even the ratings have done just fine with Moxley as champion. He would be the most logical choice because he's been there before, ran with it, and done a great job. I totally get that, but you've lost a main event player. Punk is gone. Plug somebody else in. You already have a Mox. Mox is already made. You got to fill the void, man. So you got Bryan Danielson, which is, arguably the best wrestler, one of the best wrestlers in the world, multi-time WWE champion, WrestleMania main eventer, has had epic moments in the business, and he's universally beloved by everybody. He's the guy that I'm sticking in there to replace the void that Punk left. Because you'll need him too. And then if after this, Moxley takes his little vacation, and then Danielson is there to maybe have a couple of segments on TV with MJF, and then maybe it's like that. Maybe Danielson beats Moxley, Moxley takes his vacation. During this time on TV on Wednesday Night Dynamites, Danielson and MJF get into it a couple of times on commentary, and then let's say the Firm hit the ring, attack Danielson, and then MJF says he wants to cash in his chip, and then Moxley shows up and stops it. Maybe even costing MJF the match. Maybe not costing him the match, but maybe not allowing the match to happen. Right before the bell rings, Moxley attacks MJF, beats him up, and the bell never rings, which means the match never happens, and Moxley kind of saves Danielson from being cost the title unjustly. That might be a good way to bring him back. Then MJF and Moxley can have their little feud, work a few weeks, couple months on TV while Danielson does his thing, and then MJF winds up successfully cashing in the poker chip sometime after that. Maybe something like that could work. But the good news is there's a lot of possibilities, and that's what's always good in wrestling. Hollywood guy with 2 more. How about a 3-way ladder match for both belts? For WWE's belts? Yeah, for sure. Put 2 belts up there and throw as many fuckers as you want in that match. But again, I don't know if Paul Heyman is going to allow that. If he's going to allow his tribal chief to put both of his belts on the line against multiple people, and he can lose the belts without being pinned or beaten, I don't even know if that's a contract I would sign if I was Roman Reigns. So you could do that, but I think that ununifying the belts, the ladder match works because you could pull a belt off each. That's why that fits. Otherwise, I don't know really the best way to get that done. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But anyway, I have got to wrap things up. I got to get out of here. I got work tonight. I got to do all that. And it's nearing the top of the hour here. So I want to thank you guys for hanging out for nearly 2 hours on this fine Saturday afternoon. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your night and the rest of your weekend. But as you know, don't forget, we're going to be here together tomorrow night watching Unforgiven in 1999. I attended that show live and have all sorts of stories about it. So if you want to kick back, open up a frosty beverage, and watch The Kennel from Hell with me tomorrow night while we have Sunday Night Football on in the background, join us tomorrow night. Link is in the description below, and it should be a hoot. If you guys don't mind, hit the thumbs up button on your way out the door, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. The podcast will be up. The audio to this will be up. Actually, I think I can get it done. I'll get it done here right now. Should hit the podcast sites and my website for download in the next half an hour, so just keep a lookout for that. Thanks again for being here, and I will catch you guys tomorrow for the watch-along. Y'all be good.